What is up, everybody? It looks like we are actually live now. Thank you so much for waiting. A combination of dogs needing to go potty and random dogs in front yards have distracted us from getting started, but that's okay. Things happen. So this is episode 5, which, yes, it's been so long since we've done an episode that I had to go and look at previous videos to see what episode that this was going to be, because I had no idea. Like, when was the last one we did? September?
Really?
I think.
Remember. Me either.
Yeah. It was that long ago. We don't remember. Who knows? But that was awesome. And this is going to be even more awesome because in this episode, we're going to talk about, a year in review, what 2018 was like for fresh food and raw feeding, et cetera, whatever term you want to use for last year and what we can expect from 2019. So hello, my friends. How are you? It's not been so long since we talked. We talk all the time, but since we've been on here, how have you guys been since the last 12, 18 hours since we've talked or something like that?
Since we had our epic all day long conversation.
Well, I'm well rested. That's one thing that's changed.
You're well rested. I don't believe it. It's fake news.
Well, I'm done with school, so yes, I can sleep. I can actually sleep a little bit.
That's right. You were in school. That's how long ago that was. You were still in school the last time that we were doing an episode. And you're like, I can't wait for school to be over.
And here we are. And it is over.
And you have your cert. Congratulations. Awesome accomplishment. I'm looking forward to taking it this year and getting to the end, and I am dreading everything else. Just because I know how hard you work, and there was just, oh my gosh, it's so rough. I just can't wait for it to be over.
A lot of reading, it's a lot of writing.
Well then, trying to remember how to do the schools, because it's been a long time since I've done the schools.
I have 11 courses that I need to take on various things, and I was going to do it over the holidays. I started one course.
You're going to do 11 courses over the holidays?
I didn't think it would be that big a deal. I figure I could do it because everything's online now, so I would just do it
You're going to do 11 courses over the holidays?
I didn't think it would.
I'm blaming Ron. I think it was Ronnie.
Wait, what? I'm sorry. I was pulling up the link, and it probably started playing.
Oh, okay. I was like, I hear my voice, but it's not me. I'm scared.
It's more fake news, ghosts and stuff like that. I don't know. So 11 courses. Started one.
Yeah, I started one. Just one about YouTube, and it's not good. The course isn't good. It's super basic. So that's probably why they lost my attention. But I have a raw feeding course and an herbal course. And what else do I have? A lot of courses. And so
learnings. I have this gigantic monster of doom. It's a good doom, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that if this was used in the right way, it could be a lethal weapon.
Oh yeah, that's what the course is on.
I know.
It was like my baby for a while. It was grown to my hip.
This is heavier than a baby. This is like 5 babies or something. I don't know, but it is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty hefty.
I knew it was going to be big, but when it came, I was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I know.
Say what?
I said that's what she said.
I was thinking it, and I almost thought that we were going to get through it.
Perfect. You just set me up for that.
I know. Good point.
I know. So let's get on to it. Kimberly, you have a bowl for us.
I have
a breakfast bowl.
So let me.
Oh, and by the way, Jasmine is going to be meal prepping while she's listening to us talk about That's What She Said, courses we didn't finish, and random fake news ghost noises.
All right, so I'm sharing my screen, and see all these menus? Let's just pick one. I'm gonna pick this one. I bet it a few weeks ago. Super basic and easy.
Love it.
There we go. If it'll open, let's just middle. Sorry for the background stuff, but this is what I fed over the holidays. This was like either, I think this might have been Christmas meal, which is just basically whole rabbit cut into pieces and green tripe.
I love that.
Yeah, super basic, super easy, super simple.
The red and green makes it look like a Christmas Day meal.
Like in a gory, gross way.
That only raw feeders would be able to appreciate.
So I'm going back.
I love it. Well, since you're already on the spot, Kimberly, we're starting with you. What did you think? And I don't even know how we're going to structure this. We never do, which is, I think, why it turns out to be so much fun. But what did you think about 2018? What is your year in review? And Ronny, feel free to jump in at any point. I'll jump in at some point or whatever. But just what did you think about 2018 raw feeding fresh foods? Kimberly, go.
3 things. One, more and more people are researching feeding fresh food and feeding raw and stuff. So I'm getting a lot more traffic to my blog, a lot more followers, a lot more questions. Actually, it's like I've started doing Random Question Wednesday again because I get so many questions from people. So I think that segment is definitely growing. I think we're seeing a lot more people sharing about their experiences.
And really quick, sorry to interrupt you, but is that Question Wednesdays, is that now on? Because you used to do it a lot in your old group. Right. Is that now on Keep the Tail Wagging's page, the blog?
Yeah. I'm doing it on YouTube actually, and then just videos because it's so much easier to do a video.
Right.
So I did the first one last week.
Speak for yourself, guys. Videos are hard.
They're only hard because you're afraid of the camera. It's not going to bite you.
It's okay. Watch. And then the second Ronny sits down and does it, then she'll just put out these Spielberg-esque type videos. And we're just going to be like, you know what? I'm not even going to have you.
I'm just going to stick to videoing for dog training.
Your videos for dog trainings are awesome.
Especially the ones where Loki almost permanently injures her, which is amazing.
My favorite will always be the wait for it, because I've watched that video. If you have like 1,000 hits on that video, 999 of them are mine, because I was just because it's so funny. But so definitely a growth in interest. But also, which I'm sure we'll cover today, there is a growth in the factioning off of groups. So, and I'm using that word because I just finished rewatching the Divergent series for New Year's. But it's sort of like we are spreading out a little further from each other rather than coming together. I mean, I feel like it started a while ago. Of course, we all know that feed vegetables, don't feed vegetables. But now it's turned into just like madness where we have true cliques of people. And it's not, it's okay to be like, oh, well, we all believe this way. That's fine. But it's the viciousness of it is growing. And I'm starting to see like people that I was friends with a year ago, I'm no longer friends with now because, for some reasons, and it's all has to do with how we feed our dogs. They disagree with something that I'm doing of how I feed my dogs. So now we can't be friends. And it's such an odd concept.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, I'm more of a mellow person. I mean, one of my best friends is a diehard Trump supporter, and we're still best friends because she's not just a Trump supporter. She's a whole lot of things, And so I can't imagine cutting off friendships because of one thing that we don't agree about.
Yeah.
We can still talk politics. Some things we don't agree on, some things we don't. But then when we're finished, we talk about other stuff because we have like 99% of the stuff in our worlds we do agree on. So it's just interesting to me that, fermenting vegetables, unfriend.
Yeah, instead of don't feed vegetables or feed vegetables, now it's don't feed vegetables and the 30 different ways to feed the vegetables.
Yes, exactly. it's just really interesting. And like, and that's the other questions I'm getting. It's like, well, I'm in this group and they told me that you can do this, but you can only do it this way. You know, you can feed seeds, but you can only feed seeds on days that have, you know, an R in them. And, and it's like, oh gosh, I don't know. And so, and then that's the other thing I posted on my thing is that I got trolled the other day because I said in a video that I don't know. And someone left a long comment about how cheap I was for admitting that I don't know. And it's just sort of like.
But if you had lied, then they would have called you out for being fake.
So it's just like, you know, I'm seeing a growth in that. And I don't know where that is. I don't know if that's sort of like a social media thing or I don't know. But it's like that's what I walked away from 2018. A definitely growth in interest and a true opportunity for all of us to come together and collaborate and educate people, seeing that there isn't truly a formal way of learning how to feed our dogs fresh food. But instead of doing that, there's this sort of like atmosphere of competition, where some of us are just sort of like, what are we competing about? And other people are like, you know, screw you, vegetables.
The V word.
It's so dirty.
It does. It does. Vegetables are dirty. You pulled them out of the ground. I totally agree.
They do need to be clean. Best vegetables, guys.
Oh my gosh. I completely agree with you, Kimberly. And I think that a lot of it is coming from a good thing within itself, which is more and more people are becoming educated on a higher or deeper level, or whatever words you want to put on it. And it's giving them enough confidence to be able to argue some points. But I think that some people take that too far to where they learn some stuff and then they know everything, and there's no possible way that anybody else could have any other input that could potentially be useful or helpful because it's not what they originally learned.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah. Well,
no.
Also the thing which I sort of look at it as, you know, we're not actually taught how to disagree or how to debate a topic. And I don't even think it's a debate. I mean, the three of us don't feed our dogs the same way.
Not even remotely close to the same.
No. If I showed up at Ronnie's house, like, sorry guys, you're getting fed way different while I'm here.
Sort of like, but I sort of look at what you guys are doing. Well, my friendship with you guys has introduced more whole foods to my dog's diets, you know, has introduced fasting to my dog's diets. You know, I haven't had to change who I am as a raw feeder. I feel like I've gotten better because I now have the benefit of your experience and knowledge that I can pull from as well. But I feel like sometimes when people disagree, the person that is being disagreed with, and it's not even has to be like, you're wrong. It could just be like, oh, that's interesting. This is how I look at it. People all of a sudden feel attacked. And now they have to defend, you know, their point of view to the death. And it's just sort of like, well, no. It's okay for us. We have different dogs. We come from different areas of the world. We have different backgrounds and resources. And so even if we live next door to each other, we would still do things a little
Which would be awesome, by the way, just saying.
Oh my God. Our spouses would be like, where are you going?
They would never see us.
It's interesting you bring this up because last night there was a interesting conversation on a meal photo I shared in my group. And one of the members were saying, like, can we have plain, simple, basic meal examples of things outside of venison and salmon? That was in the bowl. And I told her, I was like, well, venison is a staple in my dog's diet. It's frugal for me because I get it for free. Mm-hmm. So my resourcing for venison is going to be different from someone maybe down the street, even down the street.
Yeah.
So while some people might have to purchase it, I get it for free. So while I understand that venison might be expensive for you guys, it's actually keeps me feeding my dogs and under budget because I go out and I source these things from these hunters. And it was a little frustrating because she was like, the way the conversation was going was making it seem like that I make these high quality white linen meals.
What does that even mean?
I guess it's because I use what many people would call exotic proteins, but it's not exotic for me. Like venison, deer is something I have plentiful. I have access to. Like, it's so simple for me to go get.
A lot of people who, I mean, when I still had my group, I would see people who, my brother went hunting and dropped off 2 or 3, and it's just sort of like that is, depending upon where you live and what your resources are. I know someone who lives here who has a friend and who hunts, and so deer and moose are plentiful for her. And
or like Gabrielle from Canine Ascension out in Australia, her dog's diet is mainly from kangaroo. So we have to stop and realize that everyone's diet, there's so many variables that can go into its resourcing, their budget, how their dog's individual needs, how they are comfortable feeding, because some people are not comfortable feeding whole pieces. They want to feed grinds for that reason. So there's like all these little variables. And I do think a lot of people don't realize, and this isn't to sound funny, but there's many different ways to skin a cat. Old saying.
The 2 crazy cat ladies are rolling over right now.
They just left.
That's like an old saying out here. It's like there's many different ways to skin a cat. And I probably should come up with a different saying, but it's to say that we could be feeding the same fresh food diet many different ways and still be accomplishing the goal that we want to achieve.
Well, whenever
Sorry, cat people, I love cats and I would never skin a cat.
There's more than one way to get the job done.
Yes.
But, well, I mean, whenever you share a meal or anyone shares a meal, I look at it as 1, a pretty picture. I love pretty pictures. And 2, it gives me ideas. Because I take from that what's in the bowl. I actually am not sort of like trying to replicate the dish. I'm looking at what you're feeding and why. I go through the description and find, and if there's something that I'm not feeding, I want to know more about it. And if it's something that I can do, and if it's something that I can't source, then I go and look for an alternative. So to me, it's just to keep me learning. It's not about replicating that exact meal, because sometimes we're not always able to replicate. I mean, on the flip side, my meals are super, super basic, but they're also completely not balanced. So it's just sort of like a lot of people can replicate what I'm doing, but to what you said about venison, I feed a lot of emu.
Yeah, I'm not about to pay for that. I'm not forcing.
Do that. And I get a really great deal on it once a year, and I fill up a freezer full of it. And, but that's something that a lot of people aren't able to get. I was talking to someone on YouTube, I think it was, or somewhere, about rabbit and how expensive rabbit is, which is strange to me because they reproduce like crazy. And I know people who are like, I actually got a full cooler full of rabbit for free because they need it to make space in their freezer, but it's still really expensive.
Yeah,
I think it's a location thing.
Yeah,
it's $8.99 a pound out here, and I am not touching that. I mean, you see how much I gotta feed my 2 beasts, so I'm not about to spend that much money.
Oh my God, now I feel like a whiner. That is crazy expensive.
It's more expensive here, and the only place that you can get it is the Asian food markets, and it's
probably
not sourced here, and it's $30 a rabbit.
Yeah, I get it.
That's insane.
That's what I'm saying. No. Sorry, boys, it's not happening.
Like a good quality beef, if I'd have to source beef regularly out here, it would be anywhere from $4.50 to $5 a pound. We don't have co-ops.
Yeah,
out here.
Neither do we.
At the bottom of Louisiana's boot. Like, there's not many raw feeders. I mean, we have Texas tripe deliveries out here, which is nice for those types of people. But if you're looking for like there's some people who have access to these amazing co-ops I've seen, and the products that, yeah, you guys have access to at the prices you could get blows me away.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the other thing about, the prices. It's like a lot of things I can afford to get because I have 2 freezers in the garage. And
I have like 4.
I can buy stuff in bulk because that's another thing. I had someone email me, and that was on YouTube, about finding duck affordably, because duck can be expensive, and I forgot that duck can be expensive because it's not for me. But I also buy, I think at the low end, 40 pounds, but I usually buy about 100 pounds of duck at a time. Mm-hmm. And it's, when you buy it in bulk like that, it's super, super cheap.
Yeah. Which, again, I think it all comes down to location. Like, the only co-op, if you want to call it that, which it's what it is, but they use meat that I don't know enough about, honestly, to comfortably feed. They use some denaturing stuff, and it's just, I personally don't know enough about that process right now to comfortably feed it. So I could get it for a little cheaper if I went through them, and probably get it in larger quantities and so on, and make it worth getting more freezers. But I just don't know enough about the only co-op in my area and how they source their food to comfortably feed it. So maybe it's something I need to put some more time into so that I could, but it's hard to get out of comfortable habits and things that are working.
And that's the other yeah, I stopped. I went through a period of time where I was trying to feed my dogs everything, because I was just like, variety is so important. Yeah. And I had so many things I was feeding. That video I did with Rodney and Karen, it was last year. I edited out a portion of it where I was listing out all the proteins that I feed to my dogs.
Oh man.
You can hear Rodney in the background just going, wow. And so I have access to a lot where I am. It's, not all of it's affordable, but like I can get grass-fed, grass-finished beef for $5 a pound. But do my dogs need, with everything else, do they need that? No, they're fine. And so
whenever I step back and I realize the 2 main muscle meats my dogs eat is venison, because I get it for free, and pork because it's reasonably priced out here. And then my raw meaty bones, if I get venison ribs, I obviously feed those, and I still do have a good bit of that I need to feed. But I recently got a connection with an organic farm out here, which I'm super excited about. They free range all their ducks and their chickens, and after every butcher, I get the necks and heads and the feet. Oh, nice. Wait, for the price of $2 a pound. So I'm just like, yay, go me.
That's ridiculous.
I got 100 pounds of whole chicken necks with the heads attached and feet a few weeks ago for $100 bucks. I got 50 pounds for $100. Yeah. Nice. And that was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, I have friends, because, I live in a rural area, and I have friends who now they will buy a cow and to have it butchered, and but they don't use the whole cow. So everyone knows that I feed raw. So they call me up and say, hey, would you take? And I'm like, I will take everything.
Right.
And Kimberly, get it out of my way.
Because it's fresh. It hasn't been in storage for a very long time. Yeah, that's awesome. Last year I did 3 goats doing the same thing. Because I couldn't source any reasonably priced red meat. I had ran out of venison. So I was like, well, I guess we're buying whole goats and processing them, because it ended up working out to the same cheaper price per pound if I would have purchased high quality beef. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then of course I got the organs and then the tripe and all this other stuff, bones to make broth. So we used the whole animal from head to toe. So that was pretty awesome.
And all the exercise of processing it.
Right. Oh man, that in itself is work.
It's a chore.
Like the point of it is that we have to stop judging and quit assuming. I mean, and ask more questions. So it's like if someone is feeding a lot of venison, instead of just assuming that they're sharing meals that no one can make or afford, ask them why they feed so much venison, you know, because again, and maybe you'll get ideas, because that's another thing. I didn't think I could afford beef until I saw other people talking about, oh yeah, when people butcher a cow, they don't use all of the things, you know, a lot of it they throw away. So I go from farm to farm and ask them, can I have it? And they'll just, yeah, here you go. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought of doing something like that.
Right. I think people way underestimate the value of making something more convenient for those people, because they've got to do something with it. Like they can't just leave it in a pile somewhere. I mean, I guess they technically could, but it's just going to draw all kinds of wildlife to their cattle and everything that they don't want, or their ducks or their chickens or whatever it is. They got to get rid of it. And if you're going to show up and do it for them, they're like, get it out of my face.
Yeah, because I think that in other areas of the country, they actually do feed it to their dogs. But where I am,
which is awesome.
Yeah, where I am, you know, raw feeding is, you know, people know about it, but it's still very, you know, novel. And like, oh, well, Kimberly does that because she doesn't have kids. You know, if she had kids, she wouldn't have time to do all of it. And it's like,
none of us can argue that either, though, because none of us have kids. Oh, Ronny, what did you think about 2018?
Oh man.
Oh geez. Oh geez.
There's been a lot of growth, both like in the community and I guess obviously for myself because I completed school. So within that, there comes growth. Oh, I should have put that on silent.
How dare you?
It's going off. It won't stop.
Everybody checks their phone.
And let's all text Ronny. What you doing, Ronny?
No, there's been growth in the community, which is exciting as a whole for fresh food feeding, that people are asking more questions and more interested in what, you know, how to feed their pets. There's also been a growth in, like Kimberly was saying, in the negative side of it. There's the vibe between people, which I don't understand because we're all together in the same fight. Like we all want,
at least we're supposed to be, right?
Right. We all want to see our pets eating fresh food, whatever that fresh food may be. Take that as a relative term. So can we stop fighting?
We could, but that would make way too much sense, Ronny.
Says it in a quiet, soft voice. Can we all just get along?
Please.
Oh man. It's exhausting because like it gets in my group and then I'm like, come on guys, we're adults here. I graduated high school over a decade ago. I don't need to be dealing with this. Like we're years. What's happening? We're all on the same page. We're feeding fresh food, okay. But I think I like the growth where people are becoming more aware of what's in their pet's bowl as well. I like that there's more people asking more questions on how to achieve it correctly versus incorrectly. Because there's really, really horrible ways to do raw outside of ratio diets being imbalanced. There's a lot worse that can be done than that.
a lot worse. I actually had somebody that, and if you end up, this isn't the YouTube channel that she subscribed to, but somebody was like, they saw, I don't even have it, I usually have it with me, but my coffee mug that says Raw Feeding 101 on it. She's like, is that your coffee mug? And it's one of those like, nope, I just found a random coffee mug and I thought that I'd pick it up and start drinking out of it. But started talking about raw feeding and how this is what she fed. And there's that part of me that's like, that is super awesome. And then there's the more analytical side of me that is screaming and going like, you have like zero sources of any kind of form of calcium. You have a Great Dane breed mix and they're a puppy. And so I was like, okay, that's awesome. have you considered doing these things too? And hopefully they take it to heart and go and do those things, because then after the education point, I was like, and here's all the bad things that can happen if they don't have things like calcium. Like, oh no, that's bad. I'm like, yeah, yes, it is. Luckily, though, she had, oh no, I should say, sadly, she had a dog that she had to put down because of issues like hip dysplasia. And so she got the problems that can come from joint issues, you know, some of the things that can be caused by the lack of calcium, especially in growing puppies, and especially with a Great Dane breed mix. And so that really hit home for her. So hopefully she took it to heart enough to where she went home and started making some changes to her dog's diet. But
I think that's such a great way to approach it too. It's like, because I get the same, and we all get questions, and it's like, you know, people are new, they don't know. And so you say, oh, that's fantastic. So are you going to slowly incorporate organs into the diet? And, you know, did you know how many nutrients are in there? And especially because a lot of the questions I get are, this is what I'm feeding my dogs. I want to make sure it's nutritionally balanced. What do you think? And so, and I go from there. And it's just sort of like, you know, it's just such a great way to start a conversation. And even if they don't change in that moment, you plant that seed that they're going to start, you know, looking at things differently, you know, paying attention to conversations and making those changes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that I really don't think that without continued learning, any of us are doing it right.
Yeah.
Because the way I feed now is completely different than a year ago. And that was completely different than the year before that. And with what I'm working on now, I guarantee you a year from now is going to look like something completely different than what I'm feeding right now, because I'm learning more. And as we learn more, we do different things than we should be. So I think that too often people get to a place where this is what I've done. I'm comfortable with it. Somebody presented something else to me that makes me a little bit uncomfortable and isn't what I'm doing. And they almost kind of take it as an ego hit. Like they're doing something different than what I'm doing, so they must be judging what I'm doing, and they automatically just shut the door on that line of thought. That's why a lot of people said no to the V word for so long, because they had heard for so long to not feed vegetables, and they just couldn't get past that point, and they turned it into a judging. What?
I'm just throwing out V words.
Oh, you were talking at like the same point that I don't know what Ronnie was doing with her mug over there, but it was making some kind of crazy noise and it like canceled out on me. So I didn't hear anything that you said. But yeah, I think that we need to keep asking questions. If we don't keep asking questions, how are we going to keep getting better? Like,
yeah.
How?
And that's the whole point of it, is that, you know, that's why I cringe, you know, at the thought of anyone calling me an expert when I'm not an expert. I'm figuring this out along with everyone else. And, you know, 2 years ago, I believed that 80-10-10 was balanced. And then all of a sudden I asked the question, someone actually asked me, where did it come from? And I was just like, oh, it came from Ian Billinghurst. And then I think a friend of mine, Joe, went to his, a seminar he did, and she asked him. And he was just like, yeah, I don't understand why everyone keeps thinking I came up with that. I didn't come up with that. And it came down to, and I asked Tom Longston about it, and he was like, nope, that wasn't me.
And you asked everybody last year in the Raw Feeders Week.
He basically tracked it to some woman, just some random woman in Australia, who in a conversation, she was just saying a prey animal, and it would be about 80%, you know, and she broke that down. And for some reason, people latched onto it. And
Hold on. The last I heard in your videos for the National Raw Feeders Week is it was undiscovered at this point. So if you've figured out some kind of semblance of origin, I need to see a video on your channel. I need to see this video.
Well, because I don't know if that's even true. But it's just sort of like no one really knows, because maybe she heard it from someone. But basically, it's basically just people were just saying this is about what a prey animal would look like. But no one actually thought about the fact that wolves aren't just eating that, you know, and okay, that's great. But what else is in a Wolf's diet? And what else are they doing? And, you know, and it's not you know, there's so many more. And that's the thing. I didn't think outside of that because everyone else was doing it. People I respected told me that this was fine. So I was like, okay, this is fine. And then all of a sudden, you know, enter Destiny White into my life. And she's just sort of like, hey, have you heard of the NRC? And, huh?
What is that? Is that a raw food brand?
Alphabet.
The Alphabet. Yes.
Like, you know, and I started down that path, and now I have this huge spreadsheet where it's actually, to me, fascinating to learn how not balanced 80-10-10 is. And it is. And I find the whole thing, you know, it's started me down a whole new path in 2019, where how I'm feeding my dog today is completely different than a year ago, and definitely different than when I first started. So it's just, you know, this is a marathon. This is something that we're going to learn in a year. I mean, what was it that, you know, the question for National Raw Feeding Week this year, which, darn it, Ronnie, I forgot to ask you. I gotta get you back on.
Womp.
Is, you know,
just ask it now and edit it in.
I know, I have to. But it's like the question is, you know, what thing did you believe wholeheartedly, but you've made a 180-degree turn on? And it's been really interesting listening to people's responses, because it's like, wow, you know, I'm talking to people who we all see as leaders, and they're admitting that, yep, I got that one wrong. And it's just like, you know, so that's just sort of like, none of us are 100% right. We may be 100% right about a dog in our home, but, you know, we're not 100% right overall.
I
don't think we're ever gonna be.
With the information that we have now, the nutritional information, we still don't know.
Yeah.
One of the best things, truly one of the most impactful things that anybody has said to me in our space, taking in everybody, you two, obviously, Billy, Rodney, Karen, Judy, Dr. Kosher, everybody. One of the most impactful things that I've ever heard any of them say is I think it was my very first interview with Billy from Answers. He said, these things that people are so desperately trying to figure out and quantify, we can't know. And he used this example of, we took, and Answers has done this, and he used a couple of examples from somebody else, where they have taken the same slab of meat from one animal, cut it down the middle, send it to 2 different labs, and had nutritional analysis done, and
they come back different.
Nothing was the same.
Yeah,
so it's
we don't know. You'll never know. Even like, so it's funny because it gets like so nuanced. It could be from the same animal, but just think of how vast that difference is going to be, even just from they lived on 2 separate plots of property, or even countries away. Mm-hmm. Or they ate something so minusculely different in their diet, which we all know corn-fed, grass-fed, but there's certain animals that they could include, like barley and all these other fancy things. And yeah, we don't know. We can.
Or even, did you spend time in the sun or not? Did you get the opportunity to synthesize and create vitamin D and all these other things? Did you get to eat grass and bugs? Did you? There's so. Yeah, just no.
We'll never know the exacts. I think what people need to do is take that information as an idea of what it is. It's not the complete picture, because even with the nutritional information that we know that our dogs need, we still don't understand everything on how the nutrients interact in the body. We don't know everything. I mean, we're still learning about certain like antioxidants and how it can amplify digestion or absorption, or anti-nutrients. Like those things never really were known until recently in the grand scheme of things. No one knew what flavonoids was until not that long ago. And I'm saying that relatively speaking. It wasn't last year. It was 2 years ago.
It was 3 weeks ago, Ronnie. Come on now.
Right. But like, we don't know everything. And there's there's food interactions. Like when you eat whole foods, there's nutrients that help absorb other things. Like there's studies on vitamin C, on why it's better to get vitamin C from a whole food versus a supplement. The nutritional breakdown, like when you're looking at the vitamin C supplement from a whole food versus like lab synthetically made, they look the same. The molecule's the exact same, but absorption rate is better on whole food. There's something in the whole food that's helping the absorption.
Together. I mean, yeah, I can't remember who I spoke to about that. I think it was a nutritionist last year who said the same thing, and she used vitamin C as an example. Is like the other nutrients in that orange are what's making that vitamin C so effective. When you isolate the vitamin C, yeah, you get some of the benefits, but you're not getting all of the benefits.
Right. There's like bioflavonoids. That's what I think it is with vitamin C in a whole food form that makes it more absorbable with antioxidants and certain things. But there's the science to prove that. Like they are molecularly the exact same, but whole food absorption rate is higher. So we don't understand why. Like everything that
magic
in all food, yeah. Wave our magic wands.
Magic. That's how they do it. There's a lot of, the more I learn how much we don't know. I mean, about the simplest things. Like when I had Billy on for Dog Dad's Pack, he brought up kombucha and how they don't drink a lot of caffeine in their house, but when he makes his own kombucha, he makes this mix that's 1 tea bag of green tea and then 7 of black tea, which has, tons of caffeine in it.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, nobody knows, but essentially, not all the caffeine just goes away.
Mm-hmm. Fermenting is amazing.
They're just like, how did that happen? Like, I don't know, but it does. And it's awesome.
It's pretty freaking awesome.
We know A, we know Z.
Fermenting about 3 years ago.
Say what?
I think Billy was the one who brought up fermenting to me about 3 years ago. And
Billy makes my brain explode every time I talk to him.
Interest, and ever since then, I have jars of things that people think I'm growing. Growing anything, guys. That's what's behind me.
Poison ivy over here.
Because I think, with the fasting and with the fermenting, all these different things that I don't know why these things work. And to be perfectly honest, I don't care. If you come to me and say, Kimberly, where's the science? I'm going to be like, yeah, that's not me. Go ask Billy.
Ask Billy.
Yeah, Ronnie went to school and she can ramble off a whole bunch of stuff that'll make your head explode. But Rodney, Karen, all of those are your science people. Me, I'm of it makes me feel good. I drink kombucha because it makes me feel good.
It tastes good too.
Yep, it does.
That's just what I do, and that's all I need. And I'm your anecdotal evidence person. Yes,
the anecdotal queen
is based on anecdotal evidence, and it's like, and I have no shame in my game. That's what I am. And if you can't get by that, I highly encourage you to do this, to go and look for the science, and you're more than welcome to share it with me. I may but I'll hear part of it.
Yeah, I'll find it mildly fascinating. I won't fall asleep.
Yeah,
I love it. Billy's quite the brain exploder. On the whole concept of not knowing things, not knowing how things work, things being balanced or not balanced, all this whole conversation. He brought up something when I was talking to him yesterday about this one specific pack of wolves somewhere in I can't remember. Yeah, somewhere in the Northwest. This one specific pack of wolves they've been able to find who live almost exclusively on fish.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I think Alaska, they have that.
Oh, there you go. Which is like, and if you said that, to anybody in a raw feeding group anywhere and said, I'm going to start feeding only fish, oh my Lord.
I think
that would be one of those like 180 comment posts that you'd eventually have to shut down.
We're closing it. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I did a blog post and the only reason why is because it was, again, I'm just self-plugging myself all over the place. So let's just go out. National Raw Feeding.
You do it, girl.
April 1st through 7th, 2019. Be there. And so when I was recording for National Raw Feeding Week, I spoke with Isla, and she is an expert in wolves. And I asked her about that. And I went to YouTube and found lots of videos. Like, I think in preparation for that, lots of videos of wolves fishing alongside bear. And so I posted a blog post showing, look at these videos, because people will say, well, fish isn't species appropriate. And it's just like,
well, nature disagrees with you. Sorry, lady in the group.
Okay. I'm just not going to use that term anymore then. I'm just going to say.
Yeah, I'm starting to abandon that because there's things that we could feed and our dogs could consume that what I would say is not what a species appropriate, but it's nutritious and my dog can absorb it. Like oysters, for example, dogs are not shucking oysters. So
you're lying. There's scuba gear, wolf scuba gear everywhere.
I'm going to go to YouTube and find the video.
Prove me wrong, internet.
Somebody please Photoshop a picture of a wolf scuba diving for oysters.
And green lip mussels, that's another one.
Yeah.
So there's certain foods that would say quote unquote are not species appropriate, but they're nutritious and we could use that to complete our dog's diet.
And as helpful as something as simple as variety is to us as raw feeders, and being able to say, no, I don't really know how a whole lot of this shit. Oh, and I just swore. There we go. I don't know how a whole lot of this shit works, but I know that it does. And so we feed all of this variety. But if we look at a lot of the, whatever we want to call them, predators of all types of classes that are out there, especially things like cats. And I think it was Ronnie that brought this up, and it wasn't one of these. I think it was the very first interview that I did with you on the Dog Dad channel about cats imprinting on certain prey, where a lot of predators, whether they're canine, feline, whatever it is, find what it is that they can and like to hunt and stick to that for the most part because they can and it's available.
Right. Well, and then they also know, I'm not going to die if I eat that.
Right.
It's not going to kill me. It's routinely nourished my body. I'm going to continue killing that animal. So that's biology as well. But yeah, it's not as varied. It depends on the region.
Right. And I'm not, please do not anybody take that as me saying that you're going to find a wolf and it's going to have one thing in its stomach all the time. No. I think that it was Karen at the Healthy Pet Summit that was saying, or maybe it was in one of Kimberly's videos. I can't remember. All the videos and talks and everything I listened to just blend into this one conglomerate of information. So at some point, Karen was talking about how they had done studies on the stomach contents of this certain sect of wolves, and there was something like 38 different food items in one wolf stomach content. And it happened with similar numbers to similar wolves and all these other things. So it's they're not eating one thing. All I'm saying is that even something as simple as variety and as helpful as variety is for us trying to do this whole raw feeding thing doesn't necessarily fall under a classification of, well, this is species appropriate because this is what wolves do.
Mm-hmm. And I think we also need to look at the diet from our wolves as a foundation. Many people think that we need to go into feed exactly how wolves eat. We do have information to tell us otherwise, that we need to feed certain nutrients. So when you want to feed, you use that as a foundation. So we know what their ancestor or their cousins, should I say that's more appropriate, could eat. So we could use it as a foundation, but then we modify it to achieve the individual requirements.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So
yep.
What do you guys what's big in 2019? And I'm going to go first because I'm really excited.
I have an idea that there's this pink Cadillac binder coming.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if people can see that. But and hopefully it's not backwards. But nope. I'm doing testing on all my dogs this year. So I've actually already sent out everything. And so I'll be writing about the results. And so, you know, Of course there's an annual blood work, but I'm doing gut biome testing on 2 of my dogs. The reason why I'm only doing 2 is because I had a buy one, get one free deal that I took advantage of. And they say they're going to have another one coming up. So when they have another one coming up, I'll do the other 2 dogs. FYI, this is a disgusting process, but I'm excited about the results. It involves rubber gloves and what is it? An ear thingy and
a Q-tip
and breaking poop in half and scooping poop. Yeah. It was not a pleasant, it was not a high point in my
It feels raw-fed poop. Could you imagine if it was a different, like, kibble-fed poop?
Well, that's what I chose Rodrigo and Scout. And I chose Rodrigo because of his history of digestive issues. And then I thought it would be, because I was going to do Rodrigo and Sydney, but to compare what theirs looks like because she doesn't have digestive issues. But then I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to see the difference between a dog that's been raw fed since he was 3 versus a dog that started at 6 weeks of age? Because Scout and Zoe have never had health issues. There is one health thing with Scout, but for the most part, they're like super healthy dogs. Whereas Rodrigo and Sydney are a constant balancing act of me not only feeding them, but treating health issues. And so that I figured that's going to be interesting. I'm doing a nutrient test on all 4 of the dogs. So since we're talking about the whole balancing, you know, based on, you know, what we know of NRC, which we know NRC in itself is flawed. But you know, everything is flawed, but I'm doing that.
Perfection does not exist.
Exactly. And so I'm going to look and see what nutrients I'm missing or my dogs are missing at that moment in time. And then I also did a stress sensitivity test on Rodrigo. And so I
love that test.
Yeah, I had the meeting with the company yesterday and it was so fascinating. So I'm going to actually be recording the video about that later today. But yeah, it's the year for me. It's just sort of like, if this is what we're going to do, then I want to have a starting jumping off point and then move forward. And so I'm really excited to start sharing what I'm learning.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see that video, the biome result video.
Yeah.
Are you going to make it into a video or are you going to make it into a blog post or both?
Both.
Awesome. Awesome. I suck at reading actual things, which I got to learn to do the schools again. It just feels so slow. Like if this was on a video, I could learn it so much faster.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing more videos. It's because it's like, yeah, for some people, even for me, when I'm driving, I put my phone up and I switch it over to YouTube or to my podcasting app and I listen as I'm driving or when I'm at work. And so that's just an easier way to consume content a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All the time. Like, what are you listening to? A fantasy book? No, a book on content creation. Like, what?
A book about dog poop.
The book about dog poop. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Anything else that you see upcoming for 2019, Kimberly?
You know, I think that we are going to continue to grow as a community. I think we're going to see more people stepping up as content creators. And I think we're going to start learning more. I think, you know, we've gone from, you know, I don't know about when all of us started, but I think we all kind of started doing this, you know, well, the last time we talked about it, it was 3 years ago, but I think that was like a year ago that we had that conversation. So we've probably all been doing this for about 4 years where, you know, the blogging, you know, 4 to 6 years, you know, the blogging, the social media, the groups, and I think that we're going to see more people asking bigger questions. So it's not so much of the, you know, where do I source beef, but people are going to start asking, you know, well, what nutrients are in the beef? And if I feed myself my dog's beef. What else do I need to add to make sure I'm covering everything else? I'm starting to see just people being more open to that level of a conversation, not of course, the science NRC level, but just where you can start taking down that path. Whereas a year ago, 2 years ago, even I was resistant to the idea of tracking nutrients, where it's like, this is just too much. I don't do this for myself. This is not necessary. Whereas today I'm just like, yay, look at me. I found a source for choline, and it's just like, yeah. So I think I think we're going to see that stage of it changing.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I agree. I think that I've got 3 things for 2019, but Ronnie, what do you think about what's happening in 2019?
I think Kimberly hit the nail right on the head, honestly. I mean, I've seen a growth already. Same thing with Kimberly. My website is getting probably higher hits than it's gotten at one of its best months in the past right now, which is quite interesting. So there's more people coming into fresh food. So the growth is exciting, but it also is terrifying at the same time. There's
Truly.
It's a lot of questions. It's people to help. I mean, it's not saying that I don't want to help anyone, but it's like, and I'm sure you understand, Scott, when you have a group over 20,000 members, it's a lot to manage.
Thank all of them, Allah, Buddha, just everybody for good moderators.
Yeah.
Because without them, the group would not work. And I'm sure that RFU is exactly the same.
It's true. It's a lot of work. And a lot of these groups have a lot of beginners. So I only see that influx getting more. So it's just, I say terrifying, but it's a good reason to be terrified. It just means more work that we have to do to help people.
Right.
And like Kimberly said, people are asking more appropriate questions, are trying to educate themselves differently than what was previously done.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting on the shift on things, but it's still exciting regardless, because the growth tells me that's more pets on fresh food.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, ultimately the goal, right? I don't care if you are worshiping NRC. I don't care if you're worshiping AFCO. I don't care if you worship fermented foods, 80-10-10, half. Like, the goal for everybody is doing better. Like, that's the whole thing. And if you guys get to hear Horace sleep barking at things, then I'm sorry, because that's exactly what he's doing right now. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is scary. It's a good scary, but it is scary because just like the woman that I was talking about earlier that was doing that's awesome, that had the Great Dane mix. It's like, there's a lot of people out there that are doing that because they get a lot of information that's like, oh, it's as simple as this, which it's not rocket science. Like, it really, really isn't, but you do have to learn things.
Yeah.
Like, one way that I've been trying to communicate it to people is keto isn't science. And I'm saying this as somebody that knows absolutely dip about keto for dogs or people. It's just not something I've ever looked into. I just haven't. Other than the concept of fats and all that stuff, like, I get that part. But if I had to start keto for myself tomorrow, I'd be doing it wrong, I guarantee you. But keto, from what I understand, is not super complicated, but you need to learn something about it before you go and do it.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself at least a base level of education.
I like keto.
The room goes quiet.
I like keto. It's a diet that tells me I could eat bacon, cheese, and
I was just gonna say, translation, I can eat bacon.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a dog's bowl with just sticks of butter in it. And like, I feed keto. That's all I need.
Oh man, especially, and then just help. That's the one thing that I am starting to see a change, which is interesting, is the mindset of people, the fat predicament with people. Because of the rise of the keto diet, I feel like people are starting to understand that fat is necessary.
And it's not this terrifying thing that causes disease. And
yeah, it's like we don't have to feed carbohydrates for energy. It could come from fat. It can.
Yeah.
Which Rachel is doing awesome educating people with over at Bones & Co.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I personally like having a high-fat diet for myself. And I know it might not work for every person or dog or cat. But whenever we have people like starting to understand like, oh, these saturated fats actually are not bad. My dog needs them. That's what I get excited for that, for things like that, like small minor changes in mentality and things like that, because that tells me paradigm shifting just in general as nutrition. Because when people start to realize these concepts, especially if you're a self-aware person, it starts to overlap into your life.
Yeah. I started drinking kombucha on a daily basis because I started looking into fermented veggies for the dogs.
I know it's hilarious. I started doing intermittent fasting because I was looking into fasting for my dogs.
Yep.
And which is odd for me. I got into raw feeding because I was already a clean eater, and it just made sense to do it for my dogs.
You did it the right way.
I mean, I guess you could say I could have done it earlier. I mean, my dogs were kibble fed Loki was for the first year of his life, but Pika was for a significant portion of his life. So, even while I was eating really, I mean, I still do eat a fantastic diet, but it just like one day it dawned on me. I'm like, and then of course Loki had issues too. And it just act of desperation. We're going to try this. It just makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I think that's one thing that hasn't changed yet is I'm still getting the majority of people who come my way, either, they start similar to how I started, is in an act of desperation. They have a dog that's sick and they can't figure anything else. So I may as well try this.
Yeah.
Or they had a dog that died, so they don't want to have that experience again. So they're going to try this. And although I wish that more people could look at it as, I keep going back to that film, Super Size Me, where we saw firsthand what eating a processed diet does to you on a daily basis, and how his health went from, great health to you are going to die. You need to stop this in no time. And, but we still can't make the connection that we're doing this to our dogs and our cats. And it's because, again, they aren't showing symptoms of this. It's not this drastic. So we've become to accept that their lives are short and, they seem fine and, things like that. But it's interesting that we have yet to make that connection. But that's what I hope to see going forward, is that somehow as we are sharing information and more people are coming into the content creation space, that connection will start happening for, the synapses start firing off. Oh,
it's funny you say that. I'm in a private dog trainer group, and one of the dog trainers shared an article about how there's no scientific evidence for the anecdotal, what people are saying raw feeding, the benefits that it gives. There's no scientific evidence that proves that it's better for the immune system, better energy levels, et cetera, et cetera. There was a whole article for it. And instead of arguing the article, I just put in this one comment. I said, the pet industry is the only industry that we feed processed food and we think it's okay. As humans, if we eat unprocessed food, we inherently know that that diet is superior above processed food. So why is it different when we talk about our dogs and cats?
Crickets.
Like that. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's raw or cooked and air dried.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, that's better than a processed, like hyper heat pressurized kibble.
synthetic everything added at the end.
Right. Like, and I'm saying fresh food. I'm not saying raw. And it doesn't have to always be raw, although that's what Perfectly Rawsome's for, but that's not what I go around telling people all the time in person to person.
Yeah.
Right.
As a dog trainer, I deal with people that will never, or they don't want to consider raw. So we got to figure out ways to improve your dog's diet if you're interested in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's probably the best way to convey it to people, because not everybody knows about something like keto. Lots of people don't know about something like raw feeding, but there's very few people left around, left on the planet at this point in time that don't get the concept of processed foods versus fresh foods.
Yeah.
If they have any kind of choice in their life and they're in a developed enough part of the world where that's even an option or a consideration, and you just don't eat whatever's in front of you because it's the only thing you might get for several days.
Right.
That's something that just about everybody can relate to. Like anybody you can ask, what's healthier, salad or the cheeseburger? Okay. And which one is processed?
What type of dressing is on the salad?
Is it keto?
We make a healthy cheeseburger.
I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying you can't.
A cheeseburger with lettuce.
Let me rephrase. A McDonald's
Getting
cheeseburger.
triggered.
Grass-fed meat.
McDonald's cheeseburger. It's probably the best way to communicate it to people is what's better, processed food or fresh food.
I think what we learned from that little segment is don't try and have that discussion with Ronnie and I.
Hashtag triggered. Hashtag triggered time with Ronnie and Kimberly.
The other day that tacos were unhealthy. I'm like, how are they unhealthy if you make them with healthy ingredients? They explain that to me because I love tacos and just give me all the tacos.
Yep.
Give me all the tacos. Right. That's the shirt that she needs to be wearing from now on.
That's pretty awesome.
Run your dog, not your mouth. Additional golf clap here. Additional golf clap. Oh, it's amazing. I love these conversations. Oh, yeah. I guess I have some things too. My 3 things. One, the people that are in Dog Dad's Pack have already heard this because I made it my bonus video for this month. But I think that there's 2 different ways. 2 of the 3 here are these 2 different ways. There's 2 different segments. One is the thing that the pet parents and the dog owners, everything else, whatever label you want to put on them, whatever, they all work for me, is what they're going to experience and see, and what people like us and future people like us, as far as people that are creating content, are going to see in 2019. For people like the dog owners, the pet parents, I think that what they're going to see is nothing but more awesome stuff. They're going to see more detailed information come out. They're going to see more studies being put out, more videos being put out. Ronnie getting on camera will peer pressure her enough into it at some point. It's going to be a year of awesomeness and just more growth and information and opportunity for them to do awesome things and do better for their dogs. For anybody that's creating any kind of content, whether it's a blog, whether it's videos, whether you are going to be the Instagram raw feeding queen, I don't know what it is that you want to do, but I think that for those people, it's going to be a rough year. I think that because of the good stuff that we're getting more pet parents more educated and they're asking better questions, then we're also going to have to create better content, which, satisfies that demand. So not to say don't start doing this, because if you want to do something like this, then I 1,000% want you to do it. Just know that the kind of content that you are going to have to create now versus the kind of content that you could have started creating 3 years ago is very, very different. And we need to, I think that's a good thing. I think that's going to make us grow as people, raw feeders, content creators, just growth across the board. But People are going to be demanding more from content creators this year. The bar is raising. And if we want to continue serving the people that follow us, we need to keep going up with that bar, like doing things like going through, like Ronny had done, getting her certification, finishing her 11 courses that she had signed up for at the end of the year, Kimberly.
You'll get
will get them,
right?
Like,
you'll get them
by the time
done.
I get to them, they're going to be so outdated. It's just like
You'll get them done. You'll get them done. The third thing is probably the thing that I have been most excited about raw feeding, as far as my involvement, since I started ever. And I refuse. I'm not going to say their name because I don't believe in giving them the airtime or attention. But certain pressures on our groups and on our brands lately have pushed me into a space over the last several weeks of trying to solve a problem of how do we give people the ability to achieve balance and meet minimum nutritional requirements, all these hot keywords, without them being mathematicians or having to be as awesome and nerdy as Kimberly is and who loves spreadsheets. And I have a way to do it. And I'm getting some input from some of the best people that all of us know, and it's going to be epic. I think that it is finally going to solve this flawed AFCO and NRC are law fallacy problem. I think that I finally got the solution for it. I've got the help that I need to make it. And I think that it's going to help so many people that want to do right by their dogs, but they're just not good with math. They're not good with the difference between 16 milligrams of this and 18 milligrams of that.
mm-hmm.
I think that it's going to be epic. I think that's going to be epic. And I know that's really, I don't know, what is the word there? Egotistical, because I'm trying to do it, but I think that it's finally a solving of a problem, a big problem.
It definitely is a need because, I, like you said, I love my spreadsheets. And you also, not everyone has a budget for an expensive program. I mean, I am fortunate enough that I was able to invest in the animal diet formulator that was put out, actually is in beta, but I think it might be released now, by Royal Animal Health University, and it was created by Brown. And that's going to be a game changer for me as far as, learning about what's in my dog's diet. But that's not something that everyone has the funds for, the time for. I mean, for me, it's part of my business. So it makes sense for me to do it. But, we still need that thing that's more accessible to everyone.
Right. And there's always going to be the people that want to do it that way, which I think is awesome. And I'm honestly jealous of. Like, I am jealous of the way that Ronny can easily get into that whole thing and just make an NRC balanced meal. Like, I'm jealous of stuff like that because I think that it's awesome. And there's always going to be room for people that want to do that.
It's like word porn when Ronny starts going into, this is what a dog needs. And then you need this and you need this and this. And then a good source of this is this and this. And a good source of this is this and this. But you want to avoid this because this, because you need better. And this doesn't absorb as well unless you add this. And it's just like,
did you catch all that?
No, but it was so beautiful to listen to.
Oh, man.
I love it.
Feel the love and the embarrassment, Ronny. Feel it.
Right. My face probably is the same color as my hair.
I love it. It's my favorite thing about Ronny.
The hair.
Yeah.
Just the hair.
I love it. So amazing.
That's something I'm personally working on. So spoiler alert for everyone. Perfectly Rawsome's website's getting gutted.
Yes.
And content's being changed. It's a ton of work. My website is massive, so it's not like something that's going to be done overnight. It'll probably be rolled out in phases. First phase is dogs. So we're hoping to get that accomplished within like the next month. But I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone else is too, now that they know about it.
I'm doing this.
Say what?
Like, I said, and I'm sure everyone else will be excited about it now that they know about it.
It's going to be a big surprise.
About it, but it's all just been in the background.
Well, it's crazy because it's like I'm going through and deleting. I already posted this a couple weeks ago. I'm deleting tons of content that just doesn't serve readers, and I'm tired of people stumbling across articles that are just sort of like, no. And so what I can rewrite, I'm rewriting, but what I can't rewrite, which is basically, I was going through and finding just absolute crap. If it's not getting traffic, it's being deleted. If it is getting traffic, it's being redirected. And it's just like, yeah. And like Ronnie said, it takes some time. For some reason, I thought I was like, I'm going to do this in December, along with the courses I was going to take.
Was this your 240 blog posts project?
Now, I think 336 now.
And it'll be 500 by the time you're done.
And see, I don't have that many pages. Like you're blogging more than me. Mine are mostly like content, like lengthy content pages, and I have like 60. And
that's awesome.
I blew my mind how many I had. I'm like, whoa, that's actually
I had over 1,000. At one point in time, I had 2,000, but I had over 1,000. But then the difference between the two of us is that I started in 2011 as just a person who wrote about dogs. And so from 2011 to 2014, that's, well, actually I really started, January 2012, but it's 2 years of just crap content. That just, where I was, because I didn't have any.
You were learning how to do it.
I wasn't even learning. I was just sort of like, yay, it's Wednesday. Let's write about my thoughts and ooh, look at this. And my dog's cute. And I wonder, what is it?
My dog's cute.
What was it? I had one that was so stupid. I don't know, but it's just basically a bunch of just nonsense that is not related to raw feeding or dog nutrition or anything. And it had to go. There's some funny posts that, I was really proud of that I left because I was like, this was really funny. And this is a really good one. So I left those. But for the most, I think one was like, what do all the different barks mean? Type of thing. And yeah, so things like,
I love it.
Yeah. So
I get that because when I started Dog Dad the first month, and because it's only been in a couple of days, something like that, it'll be exactly 2 years. But the first 3 videos have not been up, and they were unpublished 6 months ago because it was like, this makes absolutely no sense. Like if somebody found and watched this video, they'd be like, I just watched 8 of this guy's video and this has nothing to do with what his channel is about. Like nothing. They're gone and they're never coming back.
That's basically what I'm doing, is just going through and cleaning that type of stuff up and making more content that still, and it's one of those things where I think that we still all have our individual voices and paths that we take. I'm still the person that's just sharing what I'm learning about my 4 dogs. And, but it's just, I want it to be a little more polished. So I'm keeping all my littermate posts because those are good too.
Yeah, I don't think there's some information that I guess you would say scrapping, but it's more or less reworking it and adding more information.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the information. I'm not excited for my brain that is having to produce the information.
Just take like every couple of weeks and just take a drunk Etsy shopping vacation.
Me too, man. And then this is what happens.
You turn into poison ivy.
Oh no, but I'm excited for the changes of the website. I think it's actually gonna serve a lot of people better.
Good.
Better information.
Yeah.
So
that's what we're here to do, right?
Do what?
That's what we're here to do, right?
Right.
Serve people.
I'm your slave. Your content slave.
I'm not going to lie. My content creation has been so low lately because I've been so fixated on that problem. And I feel like it's going to continue on that way for a while. And I have videos that I've recorded and I just haven't edited and put up, and I need to. So there's some regular content going up onto the channel. But I have been obsessed. Like, obsessed is the only word, because the problems that those people were creating, I was completely ignoring, but just looking at the genuine, like, how can I give people like that a simple answer? Like a simple answer. And it's been like this little tick or something in my brain just gnawing and gnawing and gnawing. And finally yesterday, after a 2-hour conversation, it was like, yes, that's it. Yes. So, yeah.
I'm hoping to, hopefully by the end of, well, hopefully before National Raw Feeding Week, April 1st through April 7th, 2019, I will have
self-plug.
Yes. I will publish my my spreadsheet for people to use, and
Epic.
not only will it be published, but I'm working with someone to create, and this is now I'm about to go into Excel spreadsheet talk.
Hashtag nerd mode engage.
A VLOOKUP that'll allow you to plug in, you know, this is the dog that I'm talking about, and I want to put these things into their meal. What do we got? And so I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. And can I say something really quick here, which I think is really important with this whole, what is the word here? Diversity thing that we were talking about earlier, where there's always going to be different people that need different things, and why there's never been a time, except in the early beginning before we got to know each other, where there was any concept of competition between the three of us, because the three of us create completely different stuff. And most importantly, they help different people. Like, what I say might just be like, that dude just makes no sense to me. Like, he's just too simple. He's too basic for me. I want numbers and data and spreadsheets, or I speak AFCO NRC language. I want Ronnie stuff. Like, there's all of those different pet parents out there, and all of them need an answer. So who cares which one it comes from?
Yeah. I mean, and what's funny is that when I get a question, if I don't know the answer, I go to someone else and ask them, what do you think?
I don't know is my favorite answer.
Hey, you need to go and talk to this person, because this is where you're going to get that information. I mean, and it's one of those where, you know, it goes back to, you know, community, not competition, or collaboration, not competition. It's not about, you know, they're wrong, I'm right, you need to listen to me and do things the way I do it because this is ultimate. It's not like that. And so it goes to the brands, you know, the idea of brands thinking that they can be all things to all people. And it's like, I don't know anyone who, with anything in our lives, you know, light bulbs. When I go buy light bulbs, I'm not looking at the brand. I'm looking at light bulbs. I just need some light. I mean, it's just like, so don't think that you are all that. I like you and I like what you have, but, you know, I'm a shiny object person. And if someone goes, hey, Kimberly,
squirrel,
sparkle, 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 I'm just like, what?
Dog in the front yard.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, there is no, I mean, it's the whole idea of competition is, oh my God, what's happening?
I don't know. Did you turn your audio on for the video?
Did it go away?
Yeah, okay. It went away. You're good now.
Oh, so scary when that happened.
I was sitting there. I was like, I don't know what's happening.
I was like, what's
Ronnie turned on the video again.
I don't know what was happening.
Turned on the video. I'm like, oh crap. But yeah, it's just sort of like, you know, we are all pulling from multiple sources of information, whether that be the brands we buy from, the people we follow, the food that we feed, you know, everything, the books that we read, all of that, it's all from different places. I mean, no one has just one raw feeding book. If you do, check out A Novice's Guide to Raw Feeding Books, available on Amazon.com. Okay, I'll stop. I'll stop now.
Oh, I love it. Hilarious.
I think this is like the time of the video when you can tell we're pretty much done.
Oh, but at the same time, we could continue to ramble with little bits of substance for like the next hour and a half, 3 hours, and eventually something useful would come up. Eventually. But
Yeah.
we just find more things to say that sounded slightly dirty and we could make more jokes about. And and now what you guys can't see is Ronny covering her mouth in the background, trying not to laugh really loud because she doesn't want to show up on the microphone. I love it. Well, ladies, anything final that you guys want to give to people that might watch this about one thing to take with them into 2019 when it comes to feeding their pets better?
Keep calm and feed raw.
Oh, I love it.
Sure.
Complete with the crown at the top and everything.
Run your dogs, not your mouth.
Yes.
Yes. What was that?
I said run your dogs, not your mouth.
Oh.
It's like that's pretty standard for me. I mean, it's on my shirt.
You need one that says longboard your dogs, not your mouth.
I'm actually getting away from that. We're gonna go start doing it with the bike. Anyway, Kimberly, your turn.
Oh, I think there's a story there.
No, it's just getting dangerous. My dogs are too fast for me to be on a longboard.
That was my very first thought the first time that you were doing that. I was like, I wonder how long that's going to last.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where my dogs are like, I want to go. And I can't be on my longboard and you like booking it. I need to be on a bike with something more stable. Yeah.
Brakes?
Well, yeah, brakes. Well, the longboard, I could drop the leash and jump off. So there's that, but it's really sketchy on a longboard when they get fast. So yeah, we're going to work on a bike when I get me a bike.
Well, that being said,
like, what do you have to follow up with? Don't fall on the longboard.
I'm completely distracted. I'm so tired still. And I'm just like, into 2019, you know, I was going to say it's not science, but raw feeding does have a scientific component to it, of course, but
as it should.
Not that complicated. And I know that at times it feels complicated. Sometimes we make it complicated, but it's not that complicated. And people need to give themselves a break because I think that we are way too hard on ourselves when we find out that we could be doing better and we try to rush into taking all of this on. I don't think anyone has gotten it right on day one. And it's like, don't beat yourself up. Just keep educating yourself and keep going forward.
Love it. Love it. Mine is very simple. Don't stop asking questions.
That's good. I should have said that.
And there's no stupid questions either.
No, there's not.
I always get a good chuckle out of that in the group when they're like, I know this is a stupid question. I'm like, why is it not a stupid question? If it's a question, it's a question. Let's just ask it and we can move on. I don't think it's stupid.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's like, well, that's what's so funny about the stupid questions. If you actually have it, I guarantee, especially in these big groups, about 1,000 people have the same question, but they're too afraid to ask it because they also think it's a stupid question.
Yeah.
So it's just like, ask the question. Don't qualify it. Just ask the question. And, you know, if the question's been asked 1,000,000 times and, you know, then that kind of sucks when we get the exact same question asked every single day of the week, you know, because, you know, but, you know, it's still not stupid. It's because, you know, and also every question, you know, I just remember to my first year of feeding raw, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm reading all the blog posts that I wrote. No idea what I was doing. They are wrong. I was irresponsible. I had no business writing about this. But of course, back in 2014, it was right. That was what people believed, or, you know, the people that I associated with, that's what was believed. but it's ridiculous. And it's like there are no, and what's interesting to me is that whenever someone brings up a stupid question or a question that's been asked a lot, it puts me in a place of rethinking it, because I realize, oh, wow, 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have answered this way, but today I will answer this way. So ask the question.
Yeah.
Ask the question. And to be perfectly honest, you're doing us a favor, because when it's a good question, guess what? Blog post, video, Facebook Live. I mean, it's
all of them like attention.
You're making me research if it's a really good question. So,
yep.
It's making me rethink what I'm doing. It's just, it's like, so ask those questions.
And Kimberly, that's exactly why I never talk about the app that I made. Because if I went and read through that thing right now, all the stuff that I put in there, I'd be like, where is the self-destruct button on this app? Please, people, no. Like, I won't even tell people the name of it anymore, because I'm like, I don't want you to go read it. It's wrong. Like, 95% of the stuff that's in that thing, I don't subscribe to anymore. And I would say is almost borderline dangerous, but not, I don't know. I would never, it's like Dr. Kosher saying, please don't go read my vaccine book. It's outdated. Wait for the next version. Please don't go read it. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like it cracks me up. It cracks me up if I get a long comment, angry comment on something I wrote in 2013 about kibble, which is why I deleted all the kibble posts, because it's just sort of like, I can't believe you feed kibble. I thought you fed raw. You're going around telling people that you. It's just like,
did you look at the post date? It's like people sharing stuff on Facebook. It's like, did you see where this just happened? Like, did you see that this article was posted 10 years ago? Like, look, the dates are important. The dates are important on blog posts, you guys. The dates are important. All right. Well, if we continue on, we will keep rambling, even though it is classic rough, whatever the hell this thing is called. The raw feeding breakfast bowl. That's what this is. This thing that we do is classic fashion, where we say we're done and then we talk for another half an hour, which we've already done. So we won't do it again for a second time in this chat. Thank you guys so much for coming. Ronny, thank you for coming. Kimberly, thank you for coming. You awesome peoples that have come to watch and comment and everything else. And I'm sorry we ignored like all the comments for like the last hour, but the conversation was just too good. We appreciate you guys showing up, and we will try and put this on a more regular basis. And I'm committing to nothing on camera live right now, because schedules need to be looked at. But we will be back again, and it won't hopefully be 6 months before the next one like it was this time.
Sounds good with me.
Yeah.
If it's 6 months from now, I'm going on record now, I'm blaming Ronny.